topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies, where you will find out that everything you have ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Finally, a show where you'll learn the right way to grow your business by learning business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing. And now, here is your host, President of Next Step CFO, Michael Barbarita. And joining Michael for today's show as an executive moderator is Chucky Obio.
Well, welcome, everyone. Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies. And the reason why you don't hear the energized, super energized, and excited voice of Chucky Obio welcoming you all to the show is because he just has some very exciting news. His wife and Chucky welcomed their first baby into the world, Chelsea Adeze Obio. So Chucky will be on leave for a while, dealing with and it's their first child, as I said. So he'll be dealing with his first experience with parenthood. So in the meantime, my name is Michael Barbarita, president of Next Step CFO, and Next Step CFO is a fractional CFO and strategic implementation firm. Business owners hire us to double and triple their profit through implementing business and financial strategies that their competition isn't doing. Our vision is to ensure overwhelmed business owners achieve the time freedom and consistent profits to build a legacy and the life they desire. Our mission is dedicated to guiding small business owners to leveraging their time, exploding their profits, and building a meaningful legacy. The show Powerful Business Strategies and our book of the same name is a step toward accomplishing that vision and mission. And so with that, I'd like to hand it, I'm going to hand it back to myself. Just so used to saying that. So as a disclaimer, Chucky usually says that Chucky and I are both affiliated with a number of different organizations, and Chucky currently serves as the managing director of business development for Vedder Price, a global business-focused law firm. And in addition to that, Chucky and I collaborate to moderate business roundtables around the country and around the world, as a matter of fact, and document those insights as part of our book, Powerful Business Strategies. But please note that the views expressed on this show are our personal views based on our own successful experiences. So here's something that I'd like to share that I have announced before. If you have a business problem that you would like us to answer, or a business question, or a strategy that you'd like to ask about, please email us at ask@nextstepcfo.net. That's ask@nextstepcfo.net. Doesn't matter what the business problem is or what the question is, and we'll answer it for you. But there are a couple things that we do ask. Number one, you have to state whether it's something we can answer on the air or if it's something we deal through email, that it's confidential. And of course, if it's confidential, we will not put it on the air. And second, please provide your phone number, because business problems can be complex and we might need a little bit more context or clarity. That email address again is ask@nextstepcfo.net. That's ask@nextstepcfo.net. And I want to point out too that we already had a couple, but they requested confidentiality, which of course we'll always honor. So for our inspirational minute today, business owners, I see you. I see your determination, your drive, and yes, your doubts. You wake up every morning carrying the weight of responsibility for your employees, your customers, and your family. But here's what I want you to know. The very uncertainty that keeps you up at night, that's your greatest opportunity. Today, we're going to show you how to transform those challenges into your competitive advantage. Because when everyone else is trying to survive, you're going to learn how to thrive. And so before I get to my first segment, there is one thing we never said before, and it's why Chucky and I wrote the book called Powerful Business Strategies, and why we have a radio show as well of the same name. And the reason is it's always bothered us that many business owners struggle. So we determined that we wanted to give the business owner the same unfair advantage that the big boys have. In other words, the bigger companies have more resources to be able to implement business strategies. We wanted to write a book and have a radio show for the business that doesn't have those resources, because you don't have to build, or you don't have to have a bigger hammer. You just need a sharper nail. And we wanted to give the small business owner that sharper nail. You know, this morning I was meeting with a business owner who said something that really struck me. He said, Michael, I feel like I'm playing darts blindfolded. I'm making decisions that I have no idea if I'm even aiming at the right target. And that's exactly why we're doing our show on the art of strategic decision making, how to thrive when everyone else is just surviving. Because let's be honest, the business world right now feels like it's in constant chaos. Interest rates are high, costs keep rising. God only knows what the impact of the latest tariffs will be. And finding good employees feels like searching for a needle in a haystack sometimes. But here's what fascinates me. In the exact same market conditions, some businesses are absolutely crushing it, while others are barely hanging on. And it's not about luck. It's not about who has the most capital. It's about who's making better strategic decisions. Already getting a question. So this topic seems to have struck a chord, as I already have a question here. I've worked, the question says that I've worked with hundreds of businesses through Next Step CFO. So it's asking me, what's the biggest difference you see between those who are thriving and those who are just surviving? Well, the difference comes down to three critical areas. And you're gonna do a deep dive. We're gonna do a deep dive into each one today. And first, we'll look at financial clarity, because you can't make decisions if you're flying blind. Then we'll explore market positioning, because competing on price is a race to the bottom. And finally, we'll tackle operational excellence, but not in the way that most people think about it. You know, in the past, I worked with a construction company that was losing $250,000 a year. They were making decisions based on gut feel and following what their competition was doing. But within 1 year of implementing the strategies, like we'll be discussing today, and we've been discussing on this show for the last 6 months, they turned that around to a $50,000 profit. That was a $250,000 loss in 1 year, turning into a $50,000 profit. That's a $300,000 swing, not because they worked harder, but because they made better decisions and thought through things strategically. Now, some of the listeners might be thinking, sure, but my industry is different. Well, that's exactly why we're going to break this down into universal principles that work across any industry. Whether you're in retail, manufacturing, professional services, or the trades, these decision-making frameworks will change how you run your business. And the key is understanding that success leaves clues. When we look at businesses that are thriving right now, they're all making decisions differently than their competitors. They're not just choosing different actions. They're using a completely different decision-making process. So let's dive into the first critical area, called financial clarity. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, here we go, another numbers guy talking about spreadsheets or some crazy thing numerically that I'm not going to understand. But stay with me, because this isn't about becoming an accountant. It's about having the information that you need to make confident decisions. Here's a statistic that from our research. 80% of business owners don't know their vital 5 numbers. These are the numbers that should be burned in your memory that influence every major decision you make. Let me break that down for you. First, you need to know your sales, obviously, but not just the total. You need to know your sales trends. Are you up or down compared to last year or compared to last month? What's driving those changes? Second number that you have to know is gross profit. Essentially, This is what's left after you pay for direct materials and direct labor. I can't tell you how many businesses I've seen that are actually losing money on some of their products or services because they don't track this number. Third is your gross profit percentage. This tells you how much wiggle room you have in your pricing. Without this number, you're just guessing as to whether or not you can afford to offer discounts or you need to raise prices, which is preferable, by the way, to discounting. Fourth is your net profit. This is what's actually going into your pocket after all expenses. But here's where most people get it wrong. They look at this number once a year when they do their taxes. That's like trying to drive cross country by only checking your gas gauge once every 1,000 miles. It just doesn't work. The fifth number is your current cash balance. Not what your accounting software shows, but what's actually in your bank account right now, because profit isn't cash. You can't pay bills with profit. So here's another question. Can you give us a real world example of how these numbers can change the decision-making process? Well, let me tell you about a client in the manufacturing business. In 2020, they were losing $500,000 a year. They had plenty of sales, but they were making decisions without knowing their real numbers. And their margins were atrocious, but they didn't know that. They were taking on orders that looked profitable on the surface, but were actually losing money when all costs were factored in. So we implemented a system to track these vital 5 numbers daily. Within 2 years, they were making $100,000 profit per month. Think about that. From losing $500,000 a year to making $1.2 million annually. Same market, same competition, same employees. The only thing that changed was their decision-making process based on their vital 5. But here's the key. You don't need complicated systems to do this. In fact, I'm going to show you a simple one-page dashboard that'll give you all 5 numbers in less than 5 minutes a day. Because the goal isn't to turn you into an accountant or to add a lot of work. It's to give you clarity you need to make better, strategic business decisions. So let me show you how this works. Take out a piece of paper, and of course, if you're driving right now, you can listen to this recording at powerfulbusinessstrategies.com. So take out a piece of paper and draw 5 boxes. In the first box, write today's sales number. In the second box, write your gross profit from your last completed month. In the third box, calculate your gross profit percentage. Just divide gross profit by sales in the last completed month. In the fourth box, put your net profit year to date. And in the fifth box, write your current bank balance as of today. Now, imagine making decisions with these numbers at your fingertips. When an opportunity comes up, you'll know if you can afford to pursue it. When a competitor tries to undercut your prices, you'll know if you need to respond or let them have that unprofitable business. When an employee asks for a raise, you'll know where you stand. Here's a question that's coming in. What if someone's numbers aren't good? Won't this just create more stress? Well, it's a great question. But actually, the opposite happens. The stress comes from not knowing your numbers. When you know your numbers, even if they're not what you want them to be, you can start making decisions to improve those numbers. It's like going to the doctor. The diagnosis might not be what you want, what you want to hear, but at least now you can create a treatment plan. And here's what's really great. Once you have these numbers, you can start playing what-if scenarios. What if we raise prices 5%? What if we focused on more profitable product lines to sell? What if we stop doing business with our slowest paying customers? These aren't just guesses anymore. They're calculated decisions based on real math and real data. Let me share another powerful tool that transforms decision making once you have these 5 numbers. It's called the business and cash flow forecast. Now, most business owners think forecasting is just guessing about the future, but that's not what I'm talking about. A proper business and cash flow forecast is like Google Maps for your business. If you were driving from New York to Los Angeles, would you just start driving west and hope for the best? I don't think so. You'd want to know the route, where you'll need gas, where you might hit traffic, and how long it'll take. That's exactly what a business and cash flow forecast does for your business. Let me give you a real example. I had a client in the retail business who was suffering from severe cash flow problems. They were constantly running out of money. The sales were good, but when we created their forecast, we discovered they were bringing in inventory way too early and in quantities that were too large. Within 9 months of implementing the forecast, which had an inventory flow and payable schedule, they went from negative 100,000 in cash flow to positive 100,000. And so here's a question I'm just getting from the audience, from a listener. How can business owners forecast accurately when things are so uncertain? Well, that's the beauty of the system. A proper forecast isn't static. It's organic. It's rolling. Every month, as actual results come in, you update the forecast. It's like having a GPS that recalculates your route as conditions change. This prevents those nasty surprises that keep business owners up at night. And let me share 3 specific ways that you can use this forecast to make better decisions. First, use it to test major decisions before you make them. You want to hire a new employee? Put in the forecast, see the impact. Thinking about expanding to a new location? The forecast will show you exactly how much cash you'll need and when you'll need it. Second, use it to spot problems before they become a crisis. One of my clients was considering a major expansion. The forecast showed that they'd run out of cash right when their slow season hits. What could be worse? But we adjusted the timing of the expansion, and instead of a crisis, they had a smooth transition into the expansion. Third, use it to seize opportunities faster than your competition. When you know your future cash position, you can move quickly when opportunities arise. I had a client who was able to buy out their biggest competitor because they knew exactly how much they could afford to offer. Now, some of the listeners might be thinking it's too complex for their business. Well, actually, it's quite the opposite. The real complexity comes from not having a forecast. That's when you're forced to make every decision in crisis mode and in uncertainty mode. When you're constantly surprised by cash shortages and when you're missing out opportunities, that is when you need the forecast because you just simply can't move quick enough. Remember, your competition is probably flying blind. They're making decisions based on gut feel and hope. When you have your vital 5 numbers and a rolling business and cash flow forecast, you're making decisions based on financial clarity and confidence. That's how you start thriving when everyone else is surviving. So before I continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back to Powerful Business Strategies. So before the break, we talked about making decisions with financial clarity. Now, let's tackle something that keeps too many business owners up at night: competing on price. I'm going to show you how to make strategic decisions that take price completely out of the conversation. You see, most businesses are playing a game they can't win. They're trying to be better than their competition, but here's the counterintuitive truth. You don't want to be better, you want to be different. Let me explain. And let me explain why. When you're trying to be better than your competition, you're playing their game by their rules. You're saying, look at me, I'm just like them, but a little better. And what happens, the only thing customers compare is price. And as we said so often, and as you know, that's a race to the bottom, nobody wins. So instead, you need what we call a position of market dominance. And this is a carefully crafted message that makes you the only logical choice in your market. Let me give you a real example. A roofing company was struggling to stand out in a crowded market. Every roofer was saying the same things: great quality, best service, lowest prices. All those claims just became noise to customers. That's that "I hope so" marketing stuff that we talk about so often. But we discovered something interesting. The biggest fear customers had wasn't about quality or price. It was about contractors taking their insurance money and disappearing. That was the problem. And that was the problem that the industry had. So what this company did in the roofing industry is they made a bold move. They created a position of market dominance that said, we won't take a cent of your insurance money until we deliver the materials to your roof. Think about how powerful that is. It completely changed the conversation from price to trust, and that added value. Their business quadrupled. Why is that? Well, because they weren't competing on price anymore. They were solving the biggest fear, the biggest issue, and the biggest problem that the customer had with the roofing industry. And that is what a position of market dominance does. It addresses the most pressing issue customers have with your industry and offers a clear, compelling solution that they can't find anywhere else. A daycare center that was struggling to fill spots. Every daycare in their area advertised the same things: nurturing environment, educational curriculum, certified staff. All that sound familiar? Well, instead of playing that game, this daycare created this position of market dominance. Is your daycare's idea of good educational curriculum watching Barney on TV? Followed by, how would you like your child to be reading at a first grade level before starting kindergarten? Now, some listeners might be wondering if they got any pushback. Well, actually, what they got was a waiting list. Because here's the thing about a true position of market dominance. It's not about being provocative for the sake of being provocative. It's about entering the conversation already happening in your prospect's mind. And that is two things. Let me give you that formula. First, you identify the most pressing issue or concern your prospects have with your industry. Not with your company, with your industry. What frustrates them? What scares them? What problem do they have that they don't want? The roofing customer was scared that people would take their insurance money and run. So you have to identify that problem. There's ways to do that. Second, offer a clear and compelling solution to that particular issue, something they can't find elsewhere. And here's the key. You might need to innovate a little bit to create that solution. You might need to change a little bit how you do business. Might need to change your operating basis. Think about Progressive Insurance. They completely changed the game when they started showing competitors rates alongside their own. Why would they do that? Well, because they understood that shopping for insurance was a hassle and that people were worried they weren't getting the best deal. They turned that industry-wide problem into their competitive advantage. We have a listener asking, but what if a business owner isn't sure what their customers' biggest concerns are? Well, that's a super question. Start by looking at your reviews, both yours and your competitors, your Google and Yelp reviews. Especially look at the negative ones. They'll tell you exactly what frustrates customers in your industry. Talk to your frontline employees. They hear customer complaints every day. And most importantly, ask your customers directly. Not how are we doing, not how are we doing, not that. But what frustrates them the most about working with companies in your industry? Remember, you're not looking for surface level complaints. You're looking for the emotional hot buttons. A customer saying your prices are too high often really means I don't see enough value to justify your prices. That's a positioning problem, not a pricing problem. Let me share another example of a position of market dominance in action. An accounting firm was struggling to attract and retain top talent. Every firm was offering the same things: competitive salary, benefits, growth opportunities. All that sound familiar? But when we dug deeper, we discovered that the biggest pain point for accountants wasn't about money. It was about work-life balance, especially during tax season. So this firm made a bold move. Their position of market dominance became, can't face the long hours and high stress of yet another tax season? At Acme Accounting, work from home, get half day on Fridays, not only during tax season, but all year long. So I am applying the same principle, the same position of market dominance principle that gets customer attraction to employee attraction. And here's why this is so powerful. It works in any situation where you need to stand out from the crowd. So let me share a three-step process any business can use to develop a position of market dominance. Step one, stop thinking about what you do and start thinking about what your prospect is afraid of. Fear is a much more powerful motivator than desire. A homeowner isn't really buying a new roof. They're buying a peace of mind that their house won't leak and that the contractors won't take off with their money. A business isn't really buying accounting services. They're buying confidence that they won't have tax problems. Step two, look for what everyone else in your industry is saying. And then deliberately say something different. I call this the well, I hope so test. If a prospect can respond to your marketing message with, well, I would hope so, then you're saying something too obvious. And if somebody else can say it, then it's not a position of market dominance. However, there are certain situations where everybody in the industry is doing one particular thing, but you're bringing it to the front for the first time and solving a problem that they didn't know a solution existed. Now, when a painting company says we do quality work, the response is, well, I would hope so. But when they say we'll complete your job on time and on budget, or it's free, that's something different. Step three, test your position of market dominance with this question. Who else can say what you say? Notice I didn't ask who else could do what you do. There might be others that could do what you do, but if they can't say what you say credibly, you found your position of market dominance. Oh, a listener is asking if I can give an example of how this test, can I give an example of how this testing works? Well, let's use a real estate agent as an example. Most agents say things like great service, great experienced team, knows the marketplace. Well, I hope so. I mean, everyone else can say that. But what if the agent said, when you list your home with us, we'll front you the money to make the necessary updates to your home so it sells faster and for more money? That's different. Very few agents can say that credibly. And here's another powerful aspect of a true position of market dominance. It can require you to innovate in how you do business. You might need to change your operating basis. You might need to do some refinancing or make some changes to your delivery model to support your position. But that's all good because it makes your position even harder for your competitors to copy. And let me give you one more example that really drives this home. A residential cleaning service that was competing in a crowded market. Every company in that industry, or at least in that region, was claiming to be the best, most thorough, most trustworthy. Instead of playing that game, they developed this position. We'll clean your home exactly the way you want it and exactly the way you want it cleaned, using your favorite products and following your instructions, or you don't pay a dime. Did that require a change to their operation? You bet it did. You bet. They had to create detailed customer preference sheets, train their staff differently, and change their supply management. But here's what happened. Their customer retention rate went from 60% to 95%, and their average customer lifetime value tripled. Why? Because they weren't just making claims, they were solving the real problem customers had with cleaning services, the frustration of having to explain their preferences over and over to different cleaners. So before I continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back to Powerful Business Strategies. So in our final major segment today, let's talk about operational excellence. But I want to warn you, this isn't going to be the usual conversation about efficiency and systems. Instead, we're going to talk about making strategic decisions about your operations that improves your entire business. So let me start out with a controversial statement. Most business owners are efficient at doing the wrong things. They've gotten really good at activities that don't actually move the needle. They're like a hamster getting really efficient at running on their hamster wheel. Lots of motion, no progress. So here's a framework we can use, and we've used it with our clients. We call it the 4 questions framework for operational decisions. And before you implement any new system, or before you try to make any process more efficient or incur any expense, ask these 4 questions. Number 1, does this process or expense or new system, does this help acquire a new customer? Does this help retain a current customer? Does this help increase the lifetime value of a customer? And does this help deliver the product or service to the customer? If the answer is no to all four of those questions, you need to seriously question why you're doing it at all. So every step of a process, any new system that you're going to implement or you're thinking of implementing, or anytime you incur an expense, or even the expenses that you have now, ask these four questions. If you get a yes to one of them, then you keep it or you go ahead and implement. But if you get a no to all four, you need to seriously question why you're doing it at all. So here's an example. There was a client in the manufacturing business who was spending hours every week generating detailed reports that nobody read. And when we applied the four questions, we realized these reports didn't help acquire customers. They didn't help retain customers. They didn't increase customer value or improve delivery. They were just a habit. We eliminated those reports and redirected that time to customer follow-up calls. And within 3 months, customer retention rates increased by 15%. Same resources, just applied to activities that actually matter. So those resources were just applied to activities that matter. But here's where it gets really powerful. Once you have this framework, you can start making strategic decisions about automation and systems. Most businesses automate the wrong things. They invest in expensive systems to make ineffective processes more efficient. Instead, use the four-question framework to decide what to automate. Let me give you an example. So a plumbing company that was spending hours manually scheduling appointments, did this activity help with the four areas? Yes, it was critical for delivery. So they invested in automation there, freeing up their staff to focus on customer follow-up and retention. Now, here's a question that I just got in from the audience. What about businesses that say they don't have time to evaluate all their processes this way? Well, that's exactly why they need to do it. Look, every business has the same 24 hours in a day. The difference is how to strategically use their time. And this four questions framework, pretty simple. It's just a pretty simple exercise. So for 1 week, track every activity that takes more than 30 minutes. And at the end of the week, run each activity through that four-question framework. I guarantee you'll find at least 5 hours of activities that don't serve any of these four purposes. Now, imagine reinvesting those 5 hours in activities that directly impact customer acquisition, customer retention, customer value, or the delivery of the product or service. That's 20 hours a month of high impact activity that you just discovered. But let me be clear, this isn't about working harder. It's about working strategically. One business owner reduced their working hours from 70 to 50 per week while increasing their profit by 40%. How? By making strategic decisions about where to focus their operational efforts. So let me expand on our discussion of operational excellence by sharing what I call the profit acceleration framework. This is where we take the four questions framework, and turn it into a systematic approach for growing your business. Think of your business like a car's engine. You can have the best engine in the world, but if the timing is off by just a little bit, you're not going to get the performance you want. Same is true in business. Having great individual components isn't enough. The timing and sequence of your operations matter enormously. Let me share a case study that illustrates that. I worked with a manufacturing company that was doing $2 million in sales when we started. They had good products, good people, good customers, but they were stuck. Every time they tried to grow, they ran into operational bottlenecks that killed their profitability. So we applied this profit acceleration framework, which starts by mapping out 5 possible ways to grow: more leads, more conversions, more transactions, higher transaction value, and lower costs. And by the way, those are the 5 steps of the 7-step pathway to profit formula that we have in our book. But here's the key. We don't try to do them all at once. We use data to determine which lever will give us the biggest return with the least operational strain. So here's a question. Here's a question from a listener. How do we determine which lever to pull first? Great question. We use what I call the impact versus effort matrix. For each potential improvement, we score 2 things: the potential impact on profit and the effort required to implement. But, and this is crucial, we don't just look at the direct effort, we look at the operational ripple effects. And so let me give you an example of that. A manufacturing company was considering 2 initiatives: increasing their marketing spend to get more leads, or improving their production efficiency to increase margins. Both had similar impacts on profit, about $200,000 annually on a projected basis. But when we mapped out the operational ripple effects, we discovered something really interesting. Increasing leads would require hiring more salespeople, which would require more admin support, which would require more office space. The ripples kept going. Meanwhile, improving production efficiency actually reduced strain on multiple departments. So they chose to focus on efficiency first. That doesn't mean they ignored the lead generation, but they chose to focus on efficiency first. And here's what happened. By focusing on efficiency first, they created capacity that made future growth much easier to handle. And within 3 years, they grew to $8 million in sales. And more importantly, their profit, their net profit margin, increased from 5% to 15%. But let me share something really powerful about operational excellence that most people miss. It's not just about doing things right. It's doing the right things in the right order. So here's a simple exercise every business owner should do. List every major activity in your business. And for each activity, ask 3 questions. What happens before this activity that affects it? What happens after this activity that affects it? What would happen if we did this activity earlier or later in the process? So I had a client in the electrical industry, to do this exercise. They discovered that they were ordering materials way too early, which was killing their cash flow, and doing quality checks way too late, which was causing expensive rework. So by simply reordering these activities without changing how they were done, they improved cash flow by $100,000 and reduced rework by 60%. So before I continue this discussion, we're going to take another 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back to Powerful Business Strategies. So as we wrap up today's show, the art of strategic decision making, let's bring together the three areas that we've covered. First, we talked about financial clarity, knowing your vital 5 numbers and using a business and cash flow forecast. Remember, you can't make good decisions if you're flying blind. Those numbers aren't just figures on a page. They're the feedback loop that tells you if your decisions are working. Second, we explored how to create a position of market dominance that takes price out of the conversation. Stop trying to be better than your competition. Be different in a way that matters to your customers. Find the problem that they have that they don't want and offer the solution they want but can't find. Finally, we covered operational excellence through the 4 questions framework. Every activity in your business should either help acquire customers, retain customers, increase the value of a customer, or improve delivery to a customer. If it doesn't do one of these things, question it. Question why you're doing it at all. Here's a question from the audience. If I want to start implementing these strategies, what's the first step that I should take? Well, you start with the vital 5 numbers. Today, right after the show, write down your current sales, your gross profit percentage, your net profit, and your current cash balance. Even if some of these numbers aren't perfect, just start tracking them. This creates the foundation for better decision making. Remember, success in business isn't about having all the answers. It's about having a reliable process for making decisions. When you combine financial clarity with strong market positioning and focused operations, you create a business that just doesn't survive, it thrives. And it thrives because of the uncertainty. So to get a copy of the book, Powerful Business Strategies, simply go to our website, www.nextstepcfo.net. It's totally complimentary. And until next Monday at noon Eastern Time, for Chucky Obio, my name is Michael Barbarita, and remember, don't keep doing what your competition is doing.
You have been listening to Powerful Business Strategies, finding out that everything you ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Tune in next week and every week at noon Eastern Time on W4CY Radio with your host, Michael Barbarita of Next Step CFO and moderator Chucky Obio.